Welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement a winning platform. So a way to win the game, but at the same time, how we can create a UI that looks rather different. So let's run the game and see how this is going to pan out. So let me jump onto this and you can see they see me rolling, but this text is more or less in a 3D world. It's not on a flat ground, so to speak. So that's what we're going to implement, and you can also see we're slowing down the speed of the game once we hit the winning platform. So let's say, well, in this case, it's super easy to reach this winning platform and to get on top of it, so to speak. But if it was a more complex environment that we're building or a more complex level, then it would look differently. So let's implement this functionality to our game and learn a lot along the way. So therefore, let's go over to our scenes, and I'm going to duplicate the movement scene. And again, at this point, it probably would have made sense to change the movement scene to whatever we are doing now. So I'm going to call this one winning scene. Let's reload the scene. Let's get rid of the cube and the player. And let's drag in our player prefab. Let's also make sure that the camera is positioned accordingly. So I'm going to change the position of my player a little bit, as well as the position of my main camera, like so, so that it's just on top of the player, so to speak, roughly like this. Okay, so now let's add the winning platform to our game. Therefore, we simply can just create a very simple 3D object here, 3D object cube. I'm going to call this one winning platform. And then let's change the values of it. So I'm going to reset the position and change the scale. So here I'm going to change the scale to 5.5 and the Y coordinate 0.5. Okay, so this will be our winning platform. I'm going to reposition it a little bit, move it somewhere else. Then let's give it a nice little material. So I'm going to use, let's use this gray here. I like that. So now what we want to achieve, once we hit the winning platform, we want to display a text. Okay, so first of all, let's go over to the collider here and let's add a trigger. I want the player to jump on top of this platform. So how we can do that is we can, for example, just change the center of the box collider. So for example, if I change that to 2, then the box collider will not be the visible box, but it will be on top of the box here. So we have to jump on top of it in order to trigger this event here. Okay, so you can just add this trigger to it. Now, if we do just that and run the game, we will see that there will be no physics with this whole platform. So we can jump through it. It's like it doesn't have any physics. So let's add another box collider to it, which will just use the default values. So which will just say, okay, I'm as big as the platform itself. So if you scroll in, well, you can barely see it, but there is this green line. So now we have 2 box colliders, one that will trigger something and the other one that is just there for the physics collision. All right, so now I want to have a UI to be displayed here. And I'm going to use a text. So like this one, UI text. But the difference here will be that the canvas will not use the screen mode, screen space overlay, but it will use the world space. This will allow me to create this 3D effect that we saw earlier. Now, if you select this world space, you also need to make sure that you are dragging in an event camera. So in my case, I'm just going to use the main camera here for the event camera in the world space for the canvas. Because we changed the render mode to world space, we can freely move it around inside the scene view. So place the canvas slightly above the platform with a small rotation on the x-axis. So I'm going to say position 0, 0. Okay, so it will now be, the text will now be in the center of our screen in here. So I need to change its position. So it will be slightly on top. So something like 5.5 should do the trick. So now the text will be somewhere around here. Let's add a little bit of rotation for the X value as well. Now let me change the width and height also, because it's super huge right now. So something like 8 and 5 should be good enough values. Okay, so this will be where the text will appear right now with a little bit of rotation. Now you could play around with the position of it a little bit. What I would like to have is I would like my platform to be just behind it, so to speak. Okay, so once I hit the platform, the text will appear here. You might also notice that the text doesn't even appear. We don't even see the text. That's because our text is way too big and its position is also way off. You see, if I change that to 0, 0 now, at least we can see the text somewhere here. And now let's change its position here. Now press Alt-Shift and click on the bottom right box on this one here. So once again, Alt-Shift and this one here, which will stretch the text. So this box here at the bottom, this will be the anchor preset that I want to use. All right, once that is done, you will still not see the text. Let's change that by, first of all, changing the font size to something like 150. And then making sure that the horizontal overflow and the vertical overflow are both set to overflow. And now let's scale down the text, because the text is currently way too big. So you can either change the font size to 5, for example, but then it looks very grainy and off. We can also just change the scale to 0.01, for example, towards all the directions. So now we can see this is our text. It will appear here. Let's also make sure that it is centered in both directions. So now we have our new text that will appear on top of the platform. And now instead of saying new text, I'm going to say something like, they see me rolling. Baby. Okay, so that will be the text now. They see me rolling. And I want to change the color of it as well, so that the text will not be gray as it is right now, but maybe something like, I don't know, a yellow would be fine, or a red, or whatever color you want to use for that. Now you can change the angle, of course, of your text if you change the canvas angle. So here, playing around with your rotation. Here, for example, setting it to 50 will change the angle a little bit. So really, whatever you prefer should be a good approach. So change the angle of the X coordinate for your canvas if you want to have a slightly different effect here with your text. Okay, so that is it for this video. Let's save the scene real quick. Let's make sure that we don't lose it. So this text should be our winning text later on, and it should only be displayed if a certain condition is met. And we're going to use coroutines for that. And therefore, I'd say let's start a separate lecture for this, because otherwise it would be a too long video. So see you in the next video.